Hey everyone, Howard Crampton Jr. here, presenting to you this Lessons on Letting Go program I'm putting together for you. In just a minute, I'm going to be sharing with you some different emotions that you might be experiencing, but that Dr. David Hawkins had associated to these different levels of consciousness, and they're actually lower levels of consciousness. So with the Spiritual Mentoring Program, this is not a life coaching program. This isn't even my Discovering Purpose program that you may have seen or even experienced yourself. For the Spiritual Mentoring Program, what the program is set out to do is to help you remove these different layers that seem to be blocking your higher self. And this higher self, you can think of it like the sun. And the sun is always shining. But then we have clouds that come through from time to time. And it gives this illusion that the sun stops shining. But does it really stop shining? No, of course not. It's always there. Just like the higher self. And what seems to block the higher self are these lower level emotions. The ego, you can also say, comes in and acts like it's the higher self with its narcissistic core. So through the program, I'm going to teach you how to let go of these different layers, these different emotions, so that you can unclutter, that you can feel free, you can radiate the way that you want to radiate, live the quality of life that you really want to live. Not through going out and getting and achieving and experiencing temporary happiness, but really removing these layers so that you find the true happiness from within. That makes you even more eager to want to experience in the world, not to get anything, not to achieve anything, but for variety. Now, some of the emotions he identified in his map of consciousnesses, these are the ones we're going to work through. He created this map of consciousness. It's an arbitrary scale from 0 to 1,000. But using behavioral kinesiology, he was able to gauge a certain frequency, a level of energy per level of consciousness and its associated emotions. So we have shame at level 20, and the associated emotion is humiliation. At this level, we tend to want to eliminate ourselves from life itself and people and experiences. Guilt will be the next level of consciousness that calibrates at level 30. Associated emotion is blame. It's like a vindictive hate. At this point, we tend to want to be very destructive because we're projecting guilt out onto the world. And we see this in the world today when people experience guilt. They blame other people, right? They're pointing the finger. And even in a masochistic way, if you go back to medieval times and probably before that, when someone would have sinned, they would wear these belts with needles or pins or spikes on them, and they would have to tighten the belt, right? And that would supposedly be able to resolve their guilt or their sin. Next, we move up to a level of apathy, which is a little bit higher frequency than shame or guilt, but there's still a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. Can you resonate with that? A lot of people really do in apathy. They get stuck where they just don't feel that life is really worth living anymore. And it's an I can't, it's, who cares, oh well, kind of an attitude. And abdication is the life process, meaning that we just want no responsibility for anything. Well, as we move up the scale, then we experience grief. Now, grief is a little bit higher energy than what apathy is, because at least when we're grieving, we believe that there is a possibility for help. And the associated emotion for grief is regret. Now, be mindful, these are levels of consciousness, not the emotions themselves that I'm identifying here. So the level of consciousness is grief, not as grief is the emotion. Regret would be the associated emotion. And so we experience just a lot of sadness. We're nostalgic, thinking about the past. We're thinking about everything that ever happened and experience that we ever went through, and questioning, did I just go through all of this for nothing? Did I spend my time with this person or with this company all this time just for nothing? And then we grieve because we're not really giving any meaning, right, to why we're where we're at now and where we could be going. Now, the next level is fear. Fear is a much higher vibration than any of the lower levels of consciousness that we've already identified. And at fear, we experience anxiety. But now that we're at fear, when you experience fear, it's a good sign, because it means that there's something that you want. Right below fear is actually desire, which is the next level of consciousness. And as we transcend fear, then we feel okay with this desire. And that's the level of consciousness is desire, and the associated emotion is it's a cravingness, a wanting. But that can get very severe into an obsession, right? On a less severe case would just be a mild wanting for something. And what we desire, that means life is really worth living for. We see things that we really want, and we want to go out there and experience them. Next, but with desire, again, we seem to be held back. It's always a want. We can tend to hoard. Nothing ever really seems good enough. There's always something more that we need to get, or somewhere else that we need to be. As you move up to a level of anger, which calibrates at a level of 150, and the associated emotion is hate. We're angry, or can be very, very hateful. We can experience a lot of resentment, right? So again, it's a higher energy, because at least when you're angry, that means that there's something worth living for. You're defending something. You're getting upset about something that you feel that you need to protect, right? And as we want to protect, well, that's your security to want to survive, your survival mechanism. But it's not somewhere that you want to stay. And the last level of consciousness before we actually make the leap into a level of integrity and courage is this level of pride that calibrates at 175. And here it's a scornful emotion. We can get very high and mighty, right? But it's a lot higher level than anger or fear, in that, well, at least I'm taking pride in who I am and what I do. But if it's not experienced in a controlled, conscious way, again, it can be very, very self-destructive and even destructive in the world and your relationships too. So if any of these emotions seem like something you seem to be experiencing, they seem to be a block somewhere where you feel stuck, I encourage you to reach out to me to register for this Lessons on Letting Go spiritual mentoring program. Now, it's only $25 for 30 minutes. The first session is going to last 45 minutes so that I can explain the map of consciousness for you in detail. And then we'll find where your block is at, and then how to let go and transcend each layer at a time. Now, people will ask, what is letting go? You know, they know what letting go is. People seem really excited when they hear about this concept to let go of something, but they don't know how. They ask, how do you let go of something? Well, letting go can be synonymous with forgiveness, and there presents another problem, because again, people know about forgiveness, but they don't know how to forgive. And as we forgive, what we're really doing is we're asking to see something in a new light. We're recontextualizing a problem as we currently perceive it, and standing in another position, looking at it in a different way. It's like you're standing in the darkness, you flip on the light switch, now all of a sudden you see things much more clearly. And letting go is more of a process in itself. Has very little, if anything, to do with the content itself, meaning the person, the event, even the emotion. And just focusing on the process of constantly surrendering whatever this energy, this frequency, this vibration that's being experienced in the body, and allowing it to be, and then releasing it without trying to resist it. And that's the reason why people harbor resentment and depression for so long, is because they're constantly resisting it. And what you resist persists. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, if you feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel confused, you feel that you need to get through a block in your life, then I strongly encourage you, sign up for the program. You can send me an email at info@howardcramptonjr.com, or leave me a voicemail at 661-524-6093. And I look forward to working with you very, very soon. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.